What is up, guys? It is your boy Wenser. Welcome back to my channel, The Average Fighter. Today we have a very bricky, very special deck profile for you. It's one of my favorite decks of all time. It's kind of a love-hate relationship. I hate them, you love them. We are doing a Monarch deck profile today in Master Duel. But before we get into today's video, guys, please consider subscribing to the channel. It helps out a lot. Also, please consider checking out all my socials, Discord, Twitch, Twitter, and TikTok. I'm going to link everything in the description below. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's Bricky Monarch deck profile. Before I get into it, this is just my personal take. If you think I should add some cards, remove some cards, let me know in the comments section below. We're always learning, we're always growing, so let me know what you think down below, guys. But I'm coming into this deck list really thinking about the biggest problems with this deck. I personally think some of the biggest problems is keeping up. So those floodgates like Vanity's Fiend, Vanity's Emptiness, and Majesty's Fiends are going to come in super clutch here, allowing you play your game at a very slower pace while at the same time knocking your opponent out. Obviously, this deck has tremendous draw power, Pantheon of the Monarchs, and you got Tenacity, the big searchers of the deck. But we're going to go through it. Again, let me know in the comment section below of what you think. Would you run this deck in Master Duel? Would you run this exact build? What would you take out? What would you put in? Let's get into the deck profile. So, we're starting off pretty strong here. We're running 3 copies of Idea, the Heavenly Squire. Very important card. You want to see this opening hand. You don't want to see too many copies of it opening hand. Obviously, that's bad for a lot of decks, but you definitely want to see it opening hand along with a Monarch. Reason being, this card you normal summon. Effect kicks off on summon. You get to special summon Ideos, who we're going to speak about in a quick second. When this card leaves the field, you get to add a banished Monarch spell or trap from the banished on over to your hand. So it does have some recurring effects, such as adding the banish. Probably the most important card in this deck, and you definitely got to play 3 of this card. Ideos, right? The next best card. If this card is normal or special summon during your main phase this turn, you could tribute summon 1 monster in addition to your normal summon. You can only gain this effect once per turn. The second effect is you could banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 monster with 800 attack, 1000 defense in your graveyard, except this card, special summon in defense mode. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. You can only use the effect of Ideos, the Squire, the Underworld Squire, once per turn. It's not too bricky. I'm in between if you want to see it opening hand or if you don't. Obviously, you want to look for the Idea in the beginning. Idea is going to search the Ideos. Ideos has a great effect. If you do manage to tribute them on for a Monarch, you get to use its second effect. Right? You could banish it, special summon the Idea. Or set up for next turn, right? Where you get to banish it and then special summon. One of the problems is this deck does not deal well with Ash Blossom, with Imperms, with Effect Veilers, as does every deck. How prevalent hand traps are these days, it's just so hard to pop off. Next card, pretty solid card. It does have a little bit of restrictions, but for the most part, this deck does normal summon and tribute summon a lot more than special. That's Proof of Perfalls. Pretty solid card. If you control no special summon monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Also, you cannot special summon other monsters for the rest of the turn. This deck doesn't have to really worry about that. You can only use this effect of Proof of Profiles once per turn. If this card is normal summon or special, you can immediately, after this card resolves, tribute summon 1 monster. So you normal summon this, you get to tribute it right away, so you don't have any kind of interruptions. You get a big body on the field, Vanity's Fiend or Majesty's Fiend. Those cards, once they hit the field, it's going to be really hard to get over them for any deck. So that's why I think it's super important to run at least 2 of these. Up next, I don't even know how to say this card. Cam or Fright? I don't know how to pronounce it. But we're definitely running 2 of this card. This card is great for tribute fodder. One thing you gotta be aware when to use and when not to use this card. The reason being is because it's a pendulum monster, so it can go in your extra deck, and you definitely don't want to mess with that. The reason being is because some of the Monarch cards can't be activated, or some of their effects won't resolve if you have monsters in your extra deck. So be very cautious of when to use this video. Cannot be normal summon or set. Must be special summon from your face-up extra deck by having no cards in your extra deck except this card. You can only special summon this card once per turn this way. If this face-up card in the monster zone leaves the field, banish it. And then the pendulum effect, the one that you really want to resolve. If you have no cards in your extra deck except this card, you can destroy this card, then draw one card. You can only use this effect of this card once per turn. Really strong draw power. Also gives you that, tribute fodder. On to our next card. You're gonna want to run 3 Vanity's Fiend. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. There's not really much to talk about, right? Vanity's Fiend is such a strong card. It sucks that we don't see it too often, but the floodgate for it is ridiculous. Cannot be special summoned. Neither player can special summon monsters. Across the Light Monarch, this card is pretty strong when it comes with Aether. You tribute summon or special summon this card, you get to pop 2 cards on the field. For each card that you do pop, that person gets to draw 1 card. Obviously, you're going to want to use this card once you start going in for the kill, clear the board. You only want to run one of these. You don't want to run any more, so you're not going to really use that effect too often. Majesty's Fiend. This card is fucking ridiculous, right? Cannot be special summoned. Neither player can activate monster effects. That's pretty straightforward, right? This shuts down anything and everything in any location. Banished, graveyard, hand, you cannot even attempt to activate. The beauty with this card, it actually doesn't even negate Vanity's Fiend, right? Because Vanity's Fiend and Majesty's Fiends are blanket effects. They're not actually activating effects. They're just a blanket, right? They get summoned to the field and it's just an activated effect. Whereas, like, you have other cards that activate when they're summoned. That's completely different. So this card doesn't even negate Vanity's Fiend when it's summoned to the field because it's not an activating effect. So you literally, if you manage to get Majesty's Fiend and Vanity's Fiend on the field, you literally negate all special and all monster effects. Also, this card is basically a Monarch. It has 2400 attack, 1000 defense. So it works with Tenacity of Monarch. It works with all the Monarch cards. So that is definitely a huge plus. So you only want to run 2 of these. Having 3, as good as it sounds, trust me, it can be a little bricky. Now, the boss monster. I love this card. It has such a great effect. Aether, the Handling Monarch. I would run 3 of these cards. You definitely want to run the 3. Such a great effect on your opponent's turn. Does have a quick effect. And if you mix it with the correct cards like Karaz, you get to pop a card on your opponent's turn. The card reads, you could tribute summon this card by tributing 1 tribute summon monster. If this card is tribute summon, you could send 2 Monarch Spell or Trap cards with different names from your deck, from your hand and or deck to the graveyard. And if you do, special summon 1 monster with 2400 attack, 1000 defense from your deck, but return it to the hand during the end phase. During your opponent's main phase, if this card is in your hand, you could banish 1 Monarch Spell or Trap card from your graveyard immediately after this card resolves. Tribute summon this card. This is a quick effect. That's ridiculous, right? You get some interruption on your opponent's turn, and you get to special summon, so you have more bodies on the field. I personally really like this card, especially when it gives you the option. You only have to use 1 tribute summon monster, and it's a quick effect. So it's super strong. I love seeing this card. Airburst, the Underworld Monarch, he's a very strong card, especially combo it correctly. He has a really solid reoccurring effect, but this can be played at 2. I'm playing it at 3 because I want to see more Monarchs in my hand. You could tribute summon this card by tributing 1 tribute summon monster. If this card is tribute summon, send 2 Monarch Spell or Trap cards with different names from your hand and or deck to the graveyard. And if you do, shuffle 1 card from your opponent's hand at random, graveyard or their side of the field into the deck. That's ridiculous, right? It literally does not target. You can do it from the hand, field, and or grave. You could get a really problematic card that you don't want to have to deal with and get it back into the deck, and it's non-targeting, so it's super strong. Once per turn during either player's main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you could discard 1 Monarch Spell or Trap card, then target 1 monster in your graveyard with 2400 or more attack and 1000 defense and add it to your hand. So what you could do is you could literally pitch, the Monarch Spell or Trap card, and then if he's in your grave, you could add him back into your hand as well. Or you could get any other Monarch that you need at the time. You could go for a Majesty's Fiend. Some of my favorite cards, Tenacity of the Monarch. Reveal 1 monster in your hand with 2400 attack, 1000 defense or 2800 attack and 1000 defense. Add one Monarch spell or trap card from your deck to your hand, except Tenacity of the Monarchs. You can only activate one Tenacity of the Monarchs per turn. Super strong card. It literally gives you whatever you want. It just requires you to have one Monarch or have one Majesty's Fiend. Again, Majesty Fiend works with this card. That's why it's such a great card to have. Definitely want to run 3. Pantheon of the Monarchs. This card is ridiculous. I remember when I was playing one night with my friends, I literally used this card. Like 3 times in one turn. It's so ridiculous, so strong. You definitely need to run 3. Amazing draw power. This is it. Send one Monarch spell or trap card from your hand to the graveyard, draw 2 cards. Not once per turn, not anything, draw 2 cards. You can banish this card from your graveyard, reveal 3 Monarch spell or trap cards from your deck. Your opponent chooses one for you to add to your hand, and then you shuffle the rest back into the deck. You can only use this effect of Pantheon of the Monarchs once per turn. So the first effect, discard a Monarch spell or trap, is not once per turn, but the banishing to reveal 3, your opponent add 1 to your hand, is once per turn. Domain of the true Monarch. However, while you have no cards in your extra deck and you're the only player that controls a tribute summon monster, your opponent cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. If you tribute summon monster you control attacks an opponent's monster, it gains 800 attack during the damage calculation only. Once per turn, you can reduce the level of one monster with 2000 attack, 1000 defense in your hand by 2 until the end of the turn, even after they are summoned, set, and even if this card leaves the field. So it reduces the Mega Monarchs, it reduces the Aether, it reduces the Erebus, it reduces them to a 6. So instead of needing 2 monsters, you only need the 1. Such a strong card, and also locks your opponent out of extra deck. March of the Monarchs. I personally like to run this card. I play the March instead of the Return because you definitely want to make sure that those Monarchs stay on the field and your opponent doesn't hit you with Lightning Storm that would just ruin the fucking party. Stormforth of the Monarchs. There is a reason that this card was limited. Such a strong card. Once during this turn, if you would tribute summon a monster for a tribute summon, you could tribute one monster your opponent controls, even though you do not control it. You could only activate one the Monarch Stormforth per turn. During this turn, you activate this card. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. Again, it does have that huge restriction, but it clears the field, right? There are cards that activate when destroyed. This is going to literally bypass that and literally just use that monster for a tribute summon. You got to run 3. Quick effect, activate on your opponent's turn, right? You could use this in combination with Aether, Vanity's Emptiness, another Floodgate. As much as I hate Floodgates because I run Cyber Dragons, this card is fucking broken. Neither player can special summon monsters. If a card is sent from the deck or the field to your graveyard, destroy this card. I mean, this literally will lock you out, right? You don't even need to have a Vanity's Fiend on the field to get this no special summon effect off. I mean, there's not really much to say. It's a strong card. The Monarchs Erupt. I love this card. You gotta play it at 2. Playing it at 3 way too bricky. Playing it at 1 is just not enough. You need to see the card. Activate this card only if you have no cards in your extra deck and control a tribute summon monster. Negate the effects of all face-up monsters on the field while those monsters are face-up on the field, except tribute summon monsters. During your end phase, if you control a tribute summon monster, send this card to the graveyard. So, I love that it says on the end of your turn. So let's say that you set up your board, your tribute summon monsters there. This card is still, you could activate this card. Let's say your opponent gets rid of your Monarch. This card won't even be destroyed. So even if they get rid of your Monarch, this card will still be active, right? They pass their turn. And as long as you get a tribute summon monster in the field, this card won't be destroyed, even though you lost a Monarch for a split second. Such a strong card. It's not as great as Majesty's Fiend because it's not negating everything everywhere. This just negates on the field, but it's still super strong. The Prime Monarch. Once per turn, you could target 2 Monarch spell or trap cards in your grave, shuffle them into the deck, then draw 1 card. If this card is in your graveyard, you could banish 1 other Monarch spell or trap in your graveyard, special summon this card in defense position as a normal monster. Fairy, light, level 5, 1000 attack, 2400 defense. This card is not treated as a trap card. You can only use this effect of the Prime Monarch once per turn. I love this card because it works great with the Pantheon of the Monarchs. The first effect of, you return 2 Monarch Spell trap cards from the grave to the deck. You're not going to use it too often, but it is an effect that's great. Again, this deck has a lot of draw power. It needs a chance to at least keep up with the top tier decks of today's meta. Obviously, there's no extra deck in this thing, and obviously there's no side deck. But again, there's a lot of cards that are interchangeable. This is just my personal take on thing, guys. Again, you could add, rearrange, change, add some, take some, anywhere you want. This is just how I like to run the deck. A lot of my friends also tell me to run extra deck Monarchs. I actually never seen that build. But my friends always tell me that it's super good. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you would take out, what you would leave in the comment section below. How competitive do you think this deck is, or a Monarch deck can be in today's meta? Let me know in the comment section below, guys. Thank you for always supporting me. Thank you for checking out the channel. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on those notifications. And that is going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure that you follow me on all the social media. Don't forget to subscribe. And my name is Winster. This is The Average Fighter. And you have a good rest of your night. Peace out.